He did that because I had already proven on that unit that I can think, and that I know how to communicate my ideas, and that I know how to use pen and pad. I had proven that. And therefore, because I had proven that in the way I walked, the way I moved, they never made me ever spread my butt cheeks. And that's standard. That is standard in prison.
That's MO.
I refused it. And anytime a guard stood in front of me and went to getting loud, a lieutenant would say, "Nah, he all right. He's all right. All right. He don't do it." You know what I'm saying? And so that's the level of manhood I'm talking. It's something that they can never take for you. Something RZA said in the Tower Woo. He said that men wear jewelry, basically to show their wealth. Men go get necklaces and bracelets and rings to show their wealth. He said, but when you learn how to shine your true jewel, which is your mind, then this stuff can never be taken off of you because your mind can't be taken. And it'll shine wherever you walk into. He said, essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but essentially you can walk through a prison yard and prison guard, and it'll be like you wearing the robe of a king.
No doubt.
A cell, and it'll be like you sitting in a throne room. And men to see that shine on you, no matter what position and condition that you find yourself in. And to me, that's what real manhood is at the essence. It's something that no condition, no situation, no skin color, nothing can take from you. To me, that's what manhood is.
Yeah. Something epic again. Vintage. Save my heaven if you could just see through my hair. You got that? My days are numbered, read it somewhere in numbers. So she told me it's the thing she not ordered to do that unsure. So free your will, free your grace, free your skill, free your face. Before I die, I wanna know how freedom tastes. Before I die, I wanna know how freedom tastes. Free your will, free your grace, free your skill, free your face. I was honest, swear I was wanted on every corner. I was locked away like a monster too many times. This time, can't even bring myself to write my people. This time, can hardly bring myself to write a sequel. Don't ever take life for granted, this life a cheat. Don't know how many days we got on this planet Ice, so be cool. Keep it simple, stupid. Keep it simple, stupid. Man in the mirror is the shooter, I'm begging to be conducive. An uphill battle, a boat without a paddle, I float. Vampire in Dallas, like sleepers in Seattle. I know all these talents and gifts, and you giving up on me. So God keep bringing me back, like bitch, you stuck with me. What's up with me?
Peace and power. This is your big brother Psyche. And today, I'm not gonna say Panther 48 necessarily, because I'm gonna drop this on 2 channels. I'm gonna drop this on my channel, Brother Psyche, Rich Intelligent Media, and I'm gonna drop this on the Panther 48 channel. We have 2/3 of the Panther 48 in the building today, and we have a special guest to dialogue with us as well. We got Brother Robert Ward Williams, Chairman of the San Diego chapter of the Black Panther Party.
All power to the people, everyone.
We have Brother E, we call him our Minister of Information Emeritus, calling out of Florida.
Yeah, welcome everybody to the most unwoke channel on the YouTube.
He does it every single time. And we got a special guest today. We got Brother Rich calling out of San Antonio, Texas.
Man, peace and all power, man. To the true and living, man, and death to the lying and dying. I'm your brother Rich, man. I'm glad to be here. I'm honored and I'm privileged. This is a tremendous blessing. I've been looking forward to doing this for quite a while. You know what I mean? So I'm with it, bro. Let's get to the beeswax.
All right. Well, we're gonna start out. What we're gonna do, we're doing a roundtable discussion today, and we're just gonna bounce some ideas back and forth. Maybe debate a few ideas, maybe argue a few, but we're gonna try to get down to some facts. And I'm gonna start, since Brother Rich is our guest, I'm gonna start with Brother Rich, and we're gonna start with, since it's 4 men or 4 males, however you want to define it, on this channel today, we're gonna start with what is a man. Let's define manhood. Because to me, it seems that manhood is the least defined thing in this society. What is a man, according to you, Brother Rich?
Man, well, man, I've read about this. I would say extensively, but on a modest level, I've read about this to a large degree. And one of the strongest points that I've come across, the difference between what a man is and what a male is. People think, oh, you're a man because you have a penis, you have the equipment, but that constitutes malehood. And I'm saying that a man, like any other thing in the universe, can only be fully expressed when it's defined properly. So any misdefinition of what a man is based on a misunderstanding, then you really miss the criteria of what a man's supposed to be, because you think just because I have the equipment that I'm a man. But from the different areas of life that I studied, it's, specifically the 5%, we talk about man, and we talk about the divine culture, master Allah now. A man is somebody who has mastered the God science, now, which is in the presence, and the God science is, understanding these high ideas that we represent or that we think about. And a man, representing the masculine entity or the masculine presence in the universe, is the activating principle. It's the active, strong principle of the universe. It's the complement to the feminine part. But a man essentially is brothers like us, men who have seen hard times, discomfort, and struggled through them, and not laid down and died in the process. So my ideas of man, of being what a man is, which I'm fortunate, because I actually grew up with my father in the household. I've been blessed, I've been fortunate to see that a man is not going to tap out when things get rough. So just for the general base, the general idea of what a man is essentially one who is a high scientist, the true living, and not that old coward shit these dudes is pumping on us now. Well, what you think about that, brother Psyche?
I hate to use this word, but I can't think of another phrase. I feel that, and I'm gonna add to that. I'm gonna add on to that. And anybody that know me or ever watched any channel that I've been on know that I consider myself an amateur wordsmith. I love words.
No
doubt. I love the etymology and origin of words. And the word man literally comes from the Sanskrit. The original word in India was Manu. That was the word. Yeah. Manu in Sanskrit mythology and in Hindu mythology was the first man and the legendary author of humanity itself. So the word man, coming from Manu, literally means to think or to have a mind. And as I just said, in that Hindu mythology, Manu was the first man, and he was the author of humanity. According to Hindu mythology, I'm not going to get into the large, deep details of it, but they says it's like 340,000 years is the span of a man. And they say that every 340,000 some odd years, that span dies out, and then a new Manu is born who authors humanity all over again. According to Hindu mythology, they say we're in the 7th Manu right now. So not to get into all that, I go too far sometimes, but let's get back to the basics. So according to the origin of the word man, it has absolutely nothing to do with the equipment itself. Because nowhere in that etymology does it say that a man is defined by the ability to have a penis, to shoot cum, or to birth kids. Nowhere in that does it say that. Manu, yeah, I'm talking a little bit like you, E. Manu was defined by his ability to first think and then to author humanity. So to me, a man is defined by his ability to think. He has to have a mind. If you don't have a mind, you can't call yourself a man. You have to think. And that thinking, you got to understand that there's a difference between thoughts and thought drifts. The ability to think and having a thought drift is different. So everybody has thought drifts. Everybody lays around, their mind just floats all over the place and they have no control of it. But the ability to actually structure those thoughts in a productive, proactive way is the science of thinking. And a man has that. Then a man has the ability to author humanity. As it says in Genesis, it says that God created man in his own image. To me, that's authoring humanity. So a man has the ability to not only guide, to lead, to define and solve problems for other human beings. So to me, that's what defines a man. And I'm going to the essence of what a man is and my definition of what and manhood. Boy, it looks like you got something you want to say over there. I see you looking like
no.
So I'm going to pass it.
I'm just vibing to what you got to say. That's it.
I agree with that. I agree with that, but it's like, because you see how man, the man, the word Manu, You know, and you can even take it back to the, you know, mind, well, man meaning mind, or and mind meaning spirit. You know, the spirit going back to the ruach, which is the breath, which is the activating principle, which is the animating force. So once again, man is that activating principle. He is that activating force, and he's that active energy in, you know, in his immediate circumference and within himself. So a man isn't just no inactive, sit around, stick around clown who is not building or active in his own cipher or within his own being. So you know, I truly see man as that activating principle, that guiding principle. And I mean, I definitely agree with you on that breakdown. I rock that. So what's up, brother E?
Y'all ain't got nothing to add on to that?
What's the question again?
It's E being E again.
The man
right.
sign.
I'm gonna go to another subject then. Says man, man. The question was, what is a man?
Who's asking?
Your opinion, huh?
Who's asking?
Period.
Well, the answer depends on who's asking.
Okay, if a woman is asking, what's the answer?
I don't know. It's all, for me, it's contextual. Manhood for an African, in our mindset, in our mind space, you talk about ancient back in the days and all those things, is not and cannot be expressed in a slave relationship, in a slave culture. We as African males, men, cannot express our manhood in the society without, well, Malcolm, Dr. King, QNM, without that shit happening, because that's a part of manhood for an African. African people define ourselves individually in terms of the collective. And because the collective is so uncollected, it would be almost impossible without a proper cultural frame of reference to define the word to any level, any degree that's going to be empowering for who we are. Because anything you say, you have to backtrack and say, oh, well, we can't really do that because such as we can provide for our families, but only as much as the system allows us to. System says you can't get a job because you have a felony. Well, you're no longer a man because you can't provide for your family. You can go do some illegal shit, but then you run the risk of not being there for your family, either back in the pen or dead or whatever. So our ability to express manhood is not there because we've not defined our cultural reality. And those things go hand in hand for me. You can't define one without defining the other. We can be a slave man, but a slave's not a real man. And that's the culture that we deal with is a slave culture. Everything that's why there can't be a real African or a black alpha man in this society, because the alpha that exists is white. They trump the boniest white boy trumps all of our poking our chest out. If you don't believe me, ask Kanye. You know, so
yeah, I've also seen manhood extend. You know, even in prison, I've seen brothers man up in prison. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I think we're looking at man in the sense of authority. You know, man in the sense of power and capability and strength. But manhood, you know, constitute thinking. And one thing I learned, you know, coming out from this long incarceration is that there's no such thing as an educated slave. You know, and Frederick Douglass pointed that out clearly, you know, in his narrative, when he said when the slave master's wife got in trouble for educating him on how to read, you will completely ruin the slave if you teach him how to read. You know what I mean? Because one, he'll start demanding things. He'll start realizing that he is a man. You know what I mean? So, you know, seeing brothers man up in prison, seeing brothers man up, you know, extend they sometimes I've seen it beautifully expressed, you know, even coming out the place that I came from, where brothers just really stand up, even though we're not in complete control of our environment, we do take complete control of our mind at times and say, you know what, I'm a man, I'm gonna stand in this. You know what I mean? But throughout this here, I bet you, You know what I mean? These people won't ever be able to call me a slave because I've stood in front of these coward pigs many years. You know what I mean? And people used to ask me like, man, you ain't scared to talk to the warden like that? You ain't scared to talk to the captain like that? I'm a man. You know what I'm saying? And when I come, the warden ain't killed nobody. The warden ain't pumped tremendous amounts of crack cocaine and kidnapped and robbed and slit no throats. He ain't did none of that. He sat behind a desk with a paper and pen and got lectured to get in his position. You know what I mean? I'm not worried about that. Dude is less of a man than I am, not because of his physical capabilities, but to the degree that I experience the things that I experience, he's no one to fear. You know what I mean? A man, I don't fear that man. See what I'm saying? So I've seen manhood extend past, the authority level. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to the system or institution. So I see what you're saying, brother E. In the African context, black manhood is premier.
Let me add to that. I got to some level combat you a little bit, E, on that because like my definition of manhood is more spiritual than it is physical.
No doubt.
So to me, manhood is not necessarily defined on, in this society we're told that manhood is defined on your ability to provide for your family. And that's always been the level that we've limited men to. Pay bills, buy food, things of this nature. And one of the things that Rich was just talking about, I've seen it too. Because as we all know, I went on vacation myself for 17 years. And you will see when I use the etymology of the word man, meaning mind and author of humanity. You will see those who have a mind, those who know how to articulate their words, get the utmost respect even from those who are in authority, those who walk around in the suits and the uniform, those who have the ability to kill you at will. They actually have the ability in prison to murder you and lie and say something else happened. But if you one of these people that can actually think, that can actually communicate what you're thinking, and that actually stands there in front of them with courage, they treat you in a whole different way. There was times that Rich could vouch this. Rich can vouch this. There were literally times when the extortion officer, who has the full power to come in, tear your stuff up, take your property, do all of that. There was times this guy done came to my cell. He opened my door, saw it was me. And when he saw me, he stopped. He said, "Oh," he said, "I didn't know it was you." He said, "Man, I got to shake you down." He said, "Don't worry about it, though. I ain't gonna do too much." The man literally did not touch anything in my cell. The man walked in my cell, sat down, flipped through a book, and came out of my cell. And he did, and he did that not because he was scared of me or my size or anything like that. He did that because I had already proven on that unit that I can think, and that I know how to communicate my ideas, and that I know how to use pen and pad. I had proven that. And therefore, because I had proven that in the way I walked, the way I moved, they never made me ever spread my butt cheeks. And that's standard. That is standard in prison.
That's MO.
I refused it. And anytime a guard stood in front of me and went to getting loud, a lieutenant would say, "Nah, he all right. He's all right. All right. He don't do it." You know what I'm saying? And so that's the level of manhood I'm talking. It's something that they can never take for you. Something RZA said in the Tower Woo. He said that men wear jewelry, basically to show their wealth. Men go get necklaces and bracelets and rings to show their wealth. He said, but when you learn how to shine your true jewel, which is your mind, then this stuff can never be taken off of you because your mind can't be taken, and it'll shine wherever you walk into. He said, essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but essentially you can walk through a prison yard and prison guard, and it'll be like you wearing the robe of a king.
No doubt.
Cell, and it'll be like you sitting in a throne room. And men to see that shine on you, no matter what position and condition that you find yourself in. And to me, that's what real manhood is at the essence. It's something that no condition, no situation, no skin color, nothing can take from you. To me, that's what manhood is.
Get it, E.
Manhood is God. And to me, that's the most revolutionary thing you could be is God. Go ahead.
Okay. He fucking up, boy. So to go back to one of the things you said right off in when you say that when you were saying you mentioned that manhood many times is reduced to the concept of providing for a woman or for the home or whatnot. But that's not so much a mundane concept. You want to talk about God, you can go to India. I'm gonna go back to Kemet. Osar said, Osar's job, his primary functions in terms of his woman and even the family, is to find her circumference. If you've seen the Mason's symbol with the compass and the square, you know what I mean, with the G in the middle.
Yeah.
She's the square because she rules the plane. He's the compass because he defines her circumference. He's providing for her an area, a world, some place for her to have her queenship, her rulership, her to be her feminine self. That's a part of providing. So it's not just, bring home some eggs and some bacon. It's providing a spiritual context for her entire existence. So I concur. It's much deeper than what we would perceive as the mundane. But because, again, all of these things that we are naming are cool, but I think that we have to always remember that they're still in the context of a slave, that we are not able to even, white folk don't sit around and have these conversations. White men don't sit around and have conversations about what is man. They know what a man is because this entire system defines for them in the context of who they are. For them, this is what men do. And this entire system, this culture reinforces that every single day, reinforces that in us. We don't have the cultural context to then step out and say, no, this is what a man is, because as soon as we go to truly express it to its fullest, again, if you can't define the circumference for a woman to exist in, then you're not able to express the totality of your manhood, even the basic premise of your manhood, except where you are allowed to by a system of repression. So I think that those things have to be taken into account. And I'm not disagreeing with anything that was said. I'm just saying that it's all contextual, that at this point in time, we have to make do with the definitions that we can squeeze out, eke out, and define, take the best of those and say, okay, this is the minimum for where we're at right now. For a slave man, this is the minimum. For you to be at the top upper echelons of of what a man is in the slave society, then this is what you have to have. At the very least, this is what you have to have. But until we're in a position where we are allowed to express our truest selves, then we can't really define that outside of the slave mentality. All of us are still niggas in the back of our mind. That's never gonna go away. And as long as that's there, part of that nigga mentality is doubt. And as long as that doubt about our manhood is there, the fact that we have to remind ourselves, I'm a man. That's some fucked up shit that we have to remind ourselves. That should be second. I already know that.
And for some of us, it is understood. But as you just said, let's go to one of your favorite movies in existence, The Matrix. But there are those of us. Hold on.
My favorite, not one of.
Okay, your favorite. There are those of us who have freed ourselves from the Matrix, but we keep going back in.
No doubt.
Who freed yourself? Who freed?
While we know that what the hell is he talking about?
Who got freed from the Matrix? You ain't free.
Yeah, and the code, the thing is, you jump in and out the Matrix.
We keep going back in, and we trying to educate other people to what's happening and what's going on. And to us, to that degree, that gives us greater levels of freedom. Now, here's my problem. Because I believe that all things that we deal with in reality, all things that become a part of our reality come from thoughts and words. Thoughts and words. These are the essence of everything that's been developed. Everything that you look around and you see somebody thought about it before it was actually manifested. Now the problem with that, and now here's the good thing and the bad thing about that. With that, we have power over our own thoughts and our own words, and we can start building and creating our own reality when we start properly structuring our thoughts and our words. The bad thing is, as he said that we still are slaves, and in the back of our mind, we're niggas. Well, to me, that's the wrong thought, and that's the wrong words to use. Because even us, it's 4 black men sitting here having a conversation and a dialogue about black people and black situations, but we still bringing up white folk. And I don't think it's necessary. I don't even think about white people when I'm having these kind of conversations and dialogue, because it's no longer important to me. But if we still have to think from the perspective of how we're going to reflect against them and talk in perspective of how we're going to reflect against them, then we are still slaves, and we will always be slaves. To me, we can have conversations, meetings, dialogues, and educational situations where they are not even a part of the conversation. To me, liberation comes from us, not them. If we're sitting around waiting on them to liberate us, we'll be slaves forever.
No doubt.
We are the ones who have to liberate us. This is about us now. It's about us rebuilding manhood. It's about us rebuilding Black families. It's about us restructuring Black communities. It's about us getting rid of the disease and the plague that was placed on us by them, not expecting them to do it. They would never do it. Protesting, Black Lives Matter won't do it. We have to go into ourselves and start making those changes in our own selves. And they will start with how we think and how we talk, in my opinion.
100% agree. But the reality of it is, number one, every time you walk out the house, you drive down the street, you are inculcated, you are inundated constantly with advertisements attempting to manipulate you and get you to buy into the system. That's them.
You're right.
We can say I'm free from the matrix, but the reality of it is we're not. We pay taxes to a government that will use that money to turn around and murder Black people.
You're right. Now let me show you.
How's that free from the matrix? How's that free?
You just said that they inundate us and advertise their world and their society. Rich, how many times did you sit in prison and mess up people's movies? Because when they movies come on, the commercials come on, the show come on, you sit up and say, this is what they mean by that, and go to breaking it down. They think, oh man, this nigga crazy. This nigga
man. Oh, I'm talking. One of the brothers who really showed me how to do things like that, was Anthony Browder. When he talked to, even Tom Burrow in his book Brainwashed. When you start to be able to decode and decipher the advertisements and all the things that all the things that they bombard us with daily with these strange ideas, you know what I mean? So when you're woke, or or you're free from the matrix, like for instance, Morpheus and Neo, they plug back into the matrix. You know what I'm saying? We plug back into the matrix. Like when we hit the door, we plug back into the matrix. So we're constantly vigilant on certain things that are trying to enter our field of vision, trying to enter our train of thought. You know what I mean? Because this is a business. And businesses say that, hey, I need to put these ideas into your head so you can support my idea and make me rich. You know what I'm saying? So when you have the mind to decipher, when you see things as a whole, that's a cipher. But when you have the mind to decipher and break it down, like Mumia Abu-Jamal said, he said the system ain't even real. You know what I'm saying? It's not all powerful. The system is based on the ideas, and ideas can be dismantled. You know what I mean? So when you dismantle that idea, you break that idea down, that idea is not whole anymore. And since it's not whole anymore and it's in pieces, it's disintegrated. Now it doesn't have that authority and power over you anymore. So you can actually see that, okay, well here, the effects that it's having on me is different from the effects that it's having on somebody else, because that person right there is not able to unplug from the matrix. I jump in and out the matrix all the time, like we all do. And we see these things, these ideas that we're bombarded with. Brothers used to hate for me to sit up under that TV and break down these commercials and say, you it's right here in front of, and some be blown away. Bro, I never thought. I said, well, hell, you're not supposed to. You know what I'm saying? But the power of the man is the power of the mind to decipher these things, and that brings down the potency and the level of influence that these things have over you, does give you dominion over those ideas, giving you dominion, giving you power over those ideas. Say, hey, it's not working on me. You know what I mean? Try again. You get it? So,
let me add to this.
Manipulating a system is not freedom. It means that you've gotten to a point where you're able to see and work the levers to better improve your situation within the construct, but it's not freedom from the construct. It's awareness of the construct. So we're not free from it. We just know there's some shit going on. Matter of fact, when CBDC, central bank digital currency, basically
Bitcoin.
Like Bitcoin, but it's government controlled.
Cryptocurrency.
When that shit kicks in, which it's already started. I sent y'all an article about them doing it in Nigeria and limiting the amount of money that people can take out and all of that. And when you can program, when this shit comes out, they had all of those lockdowns, thinking in your mind, okay, they got to have some way to enforce people staying home. When you're using digital currency, because it's a computer program, One of the things that they can do is program that money to only work, say, 10 miles from your house. So if you got a full tank of gas, you can drive that car in a straight line until it runs out of gas, and then you can't use your money no more. That's existing within the matrix. Your very fundamentals are still controlled and manipulated by a system that hates you and thinks that you're shit. And as long as we are subjugated to that, we're not free. I mean, it's good with the mind and get the mind out. That's beautiful. That's a part of the process. But the reality, again, because African people, until we are in a collective state where we can express who we are without the threat of violence and everything else to even our children, we're still enslaved. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's not a judgment. That's just an understanding that there's a difference between knowing the path and having walk through the door.
That's a problem, because if I gotta wait on other niggas to get free, I'm in trouble.
No doubt.
Well, if you waiting on niggas to do anything, you in trouble. That's why you don't wait on niggas.
But that's essentially what you just said. You said that all of us in the back of our mind are niggas. Then I said we never free until we're as a collective state. So you're basically telling me I have to wait on what other niggas are doing. And to me, I don't have to wait on what other people are doing. I have to take responsibility for what I am doing. And
yes, absolutely.
In the process of that, maybe me taking responsibility and accountability for what I am doing would inspire and wake up other people at the same time.
Absolutely.
But I don't believe that I have to wait on somebody else to wake up.
I'm not saying you have to wait on anybody to wake up. I'm saying our understanding of freedom.
Let me ask you this question. Let me ask you this question. Because we got a difference of opinion on what freedom is. But let me ask you this question.
Maybe not.
How do you get free if I gotta wait on everybody else? And how do we get slaves? Cause I want to make sure that we're not saying, or that we're not interpreting this as saying there's no hope. I want to make sure we're not saying that. Or if we are saying that, let's clear the air and make sure we put that out clearly.
Oh, absolutely not. My focus, my understanding, my view is that the universe, that the world is moving on a path. And that path is going to go where it's going to go regardless. Again, we talked about entropy a few shows ago, where things move from a state of being very well organized to complete disarray. This country, this government, this whole Western global system is on the brink of falling apart. That's why I say I'm no longer a prepper, I'm a homesteader. Preppers are preparing for shit to happen. Shit's already happening. We're on the verge of world war, possible nuclear war. The economy is in the fucking toilet. You know, I don't know how anybody cannot agree with that. Food shortages, countries are shutting down farmers. Bill Gates, a tech guy, billionaire, is buying up hundreds of thousands of acres of farmland. At the same time, he's pushing the concept of having people, instead of eat meat made out of bugs or meat that's created in a lab at the same time. So all of these things are popping and moving. The World Economic Forum, the WEF, it has stated, and these are cats like, you know, Musk and Bezos and all of these billionaire big motherfuckers who never see money, who are sitting back and manipulating the levels of power at a global level, have said that you will own nothing and you will like it. That they are moving us toward a position of a global oneness. This is what they want. So all of this that we're dealing with right now is falling apart as people are no longer able to afford or access. You know, if you go to church and you want to pay your tithes which Black folk don't, you know, you're not going to be able to pay your tithes with a digital bank card. You go to church and your auntie puts a little $20 bill in there, $10 bill, whatever it is. When cash is no longer usable, the fuck is everybody gonna do? So it's not that it's hopeless, it's that we have to, and I said this 25, 30 years ago, Black folk in this country are not gonna be the spearhead that causes this shit to fall apart. This shit is falling apart because it has to fall apart. We as the people, and we talked about this back then, and instead of doing a lot of things that we do, building a community of ourselves, where we are self-sufficient and interdependent on one another, is an application of our freedom. It's an application of our humanity and our manness and our womanhood and all of those wonderful things, because it works outside of the system and it works to address economics. Again, economics being how you take what you got and make it fit what you need. addressing our economics on our own terms. But we are still dependent at a very basic level on their money system. On how do we get food? We go and get it from them. We talk about not asking the government or somebody else to free us. A slave is somebody who allows somebody else to feed them. And we go to the grocery store to feed ourselves rather than going to one another or even ourselves. I grow a whole lot of my food. It freaked me out. I realized the other day, I made eggs from my chicken. I used bell peppers and cilantro and other seasoning and herbs out of my garden, bell peppers, all of that, and made a meal for myself. Tripped me out.
Let me say this. I agree 100%.
But let me speak.
I'm gonna let you in. Let me say, I want to say this
You
one.
said you didn't want question number one.
I want to say this one little point. I agree 100% with what E's saying. I just think E don't see this. The only people as a unit, as a group that can do what you're talking about is people that are free here, like what I'm talking about. If you're not free here, like what I'm talking about, there is no way you can connect with other people that are free here and do what you're talking about. It's impossible. You can't have the average local joker with no mental freedom come together and do what you're talking about. It's not going to happen. They're going to be dependent on the system. When you were talking about the money dying and all that, you know what I was thinking while you were talking? I'm sitting here thinking to myself, why is that a bad thing? If the money, now listen to what I'm saying.
I'm saying what is a bad thing? I need a reference.
The shit falling apart.
Everything falling apart. I'm sitting up here listening to you say that.
This is great. This is
what I'm
mission
thinking.
accomplished.
Yeah, that's great. I'm with it.
Thinking, why is that bad? Because it's like when I was in prison, when I was incarcerated, and I was reading about the music industry. You know, I always loved music. I used to rap back in the day. So I'm reading about the music industry. And all the rappers are complaining about how MP3s and digital downloads is destroying the music industry and big record labels are no longer effective. In my mind, I'm reading this and I'm saying, why is that a bad thing? Because that puts the music back in the hands of the people. If the people can actually create their own music at home, don't need the record label, drop their own albums themselves, don't need the record label, you have control of hip hop again, like you did in the beginning. You have control. And if you gain control back, then hip hop is yours again. Why is that a bad thing? And what you're saying when you were talking about the money, governments collapsing, this, I'm thinking to myself, why is that a bad thing? Because that's
a beautiful thing if you're in a space to capitalize off of it, yeah.
Only people that think like this, that freedom that I'm talking about, can do the freedom that you're talking about. I want to come in, Walt.
What I would say is that what you're talking about when you call it freedom, I would say that's awareness. Freedom for me is not piecemeal. You're either free or you're a slave. So it's not a little bit of freedom. Either you're free or you're not free. You can be aware.
If your freedom has to be determined and dependent on what somebody else is giving you or thinking about you, that's not freedom. See,
it depends on your context.
And I guess our contexts are different because I don't think that I can tie my freedom to somebody else or to somebody else's thoughts.
Let me say this because y'all in debate mode. Let me be the
you goddamn right.
We want to chop these ideas up.
You know what I'm talking about?
But you creating polarity, and let me break apart that polarity.
No doubt.
All we're really dealing with is degrees of a man. Brother E, where he is in terms of his position as a man, especially transitioning to elderhood and teaching, he understands that it doesn't stop at one level. In other words, you don't just reach this plateau of going from a male to a man and it is done. So all y'all talking about is at this point now is degrees of positions that a man may take on. But going back to the initial question, let me break this down just so y'all can kind of to pull together the elements.
No doubt.
A male is a man once the male has risen to a level of accountability within a given environment, which means it doesn't matter what environment, and able to build, manipulate, and control his position of power through leadership and design. Now that right there, stepping into manhood is irrelevant as to what stage of manhood you're in. That's just going from being a male to a man. This means that a male is no longer in a play or emulation mode, but capable of defining, developing, and defending their own path. That is the basic concept of a man. All right.
Appreciate that.
And I can go with that. Appreciate
Let me
that.
go. Let me keep going. I'm not done. Because y'all kept crossing back and forth. Manhood is the process taken to become a man. And this is different based on the culture and position within a society that males take on in perspective to religion and social construct, which is where E went. Now, from that, now you can start talking about degrees of a man and degrees of manhood, which goes into the levels of control and the levels of your ability to jump in and out of the matrix like y'all talked about, or to even deal with the fact of recognizing the position of bringing others out of the matrix. See, now you're talking about degrees of manhood, because the point is, going back to one of the things he stated, this is not saying that we're out of the matrix, but what it's saying is your ability to be able to create code, going into that aspect of it, and navigate and manipulate and also infect other code and architect, which is why I stated your position to be able to be a leader and design, which is defining, developing, and defending. So from that standpoint, now we start getting into degrees of how I'm able to construct and deal with that environment. So
let me say this, and I'm gonna ask another question, because me and E go on this all day, and it's a beautiful thing. It's not a bad thing, because E got me thinking. E fired me up and he got me thinking, because he's saying something now. But I want to say this.
Feel like old times, huh?
Yeah, like old times. I do not think that our manhood can be defined necessarily on an event. We used to do this when we first started. I guess when I first started, because when I came in, I think E had been in the game like 10 years already. But when we first started connecting, we used to do this. We never wanted to call ourselves revolutionaries, because we thought that it was some event that had to take place that would actually define and solidify us being revolutionaries. It wasn't until I was in prison that I learned that being a revolutionary wasn't the event that we were looking for. The event is being free. Being a revolutionary is the process that we go through in order to acquire freedom. Being a revolutionary is not the goal. I realized and actually started claiming the term revolutionary while I was incarcerated, because I really started to understand that I was already in the act of re-evolving. And I was in the act of re-evolving other people. And so that's what a revolutionary is. Someone who is in the act right now of re-evolving or bringing evolution back. Because especially in prison is a stagnant place that you could stay froze in one place for 10, 15, 20 years. I've seen dudes that was 40 knocking on 50 that still talked, thought, and operated like 15. So you can get stuck there. And so that is the ultimate place of de-evolution, of stopping the process of mental evolution. So being there, I actually really saw or got my wings, so to speak, as a revolutionary. I actually saw it. That's why I don't like to put a time stamp, so to speak, or a milestone on when I'm a revolutionary or when I'm free. I'm not talking about I'm gonna get free. I'm claiming it right now. Because if I claim it, I start thinking like it, I start speaking like it, I start acting like it, and I start manifesting it. And you know that's where I see these things. That's where I see it. And I'm a man right now at this very moment, because if I claim it, I'll start thinking and acting like a man. As again, I don't think that being a man has anything to do with the ability to my people. I had a dude, I haven't told y'all this, but I had a dude just recently, he told me, he said that, let me remember what he said. In the context of a female, he was boasting on his penis. He was boasting on his penis abilities. And he said that his penis game was vicious. And he believed, that is the exact term that he used. His penis game was vicious. And yes.
I just read it. I beat you, asked me, but keep going.
And he believed that defined him as being at a high level of manhood. Now, you know, on the most basic, simple mammal level, males compete with each other with women and money. You know, we do that when we're at our basic, most lower mammal level, when we're on our animal level. Whoever got the most money, that must be the biggest man. Whoever got the most women, that must be the better man. And so dudes at that level, I call it the savage in the pursuit of happiness. Dudes on that level define their manhood by those things. That's why I wanted to bring that subject up. Dudes on that level define manhood by that. And I think that manhood has to be defined by something else, by something clearer. You know what I'm saying? By something more powerful. And that's what we're discussing. That's what we're talking about. But let me shoot this out here at y'all. And
wait. Let me throw this in just as my pen on the subject.
Vicious
War said it.
Penis game.
Yeah, my penis game is no. No, but so I charge you, brother man, to delve more deeply into the key. To me, the key aspect of manhood is what War said is to develop. And part of that development is what is manhood. So I guess in the back of my mind, because that's an evolutionary part of it, okay, I've made this level of manhood. I need to be something more than that. I need to be a greater man. I need more of a man, and continue to develop and define what man is so that I continue to grow toward that. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, true.
So that's it. Go ahead with your other set. Of course, I think War is allowed to answer this question.
No doubt. Well, I was gonna go to the next one. I was gonna go into this, and I have been developing. I developed manhood rites of passage classes basically while I was in prison, and defined. What you say? Develop, define, defend, War. I developed, defined it, and defended the concepts of manhood in a structured way that other men could actually study those things and be like, okay, that is what a man is. I've never heard man broke down in this way. I said that a man had 4 responsibilities. He had 2 tools that he was born with that helps him gain those, that helps him acquire those responsibilities. He has 7 roles that he has to play in his lifetime. I said that the man has 5 drives that drive him to operate in his life. And those things are like basically defining a foundation of what moves a man and what a man is supposed to be trying to accomplish. All the way, and we talked about development, all the way from being a son to being God. Those are the 7 roles and everything that's in between. I say that he's a son because somebody gave birth to him, all the way to being God conscious, number 7. You know, and those are the evolutionary steps that he has to take, that he has to go through in order to gain his manhood. And I'm steady walking those steps myself. You know, one of the things that I just did recently, y'all may find shocking and surprising, is I no longer have a rotation.
What?
Yes, I eliminated all. And I can say that this is going to be publicly on YouTube. So if I'm lying, somebody can say it. There is no rotation at all.
Not too savage for you, huh? Couldn't deal with the competition.
I didn't want to deal with nothing. I didn't want to deal with anything. I wanted to keep it. I wanted to go back to my origin. I wanted to go back and get me straight. I wanted to make sure my discipline was right. You know, because one of the things about dealing with women that I think is important for us to understand as men is that sometimes that can distract us and take us off our goal and off our journey. It can distract us. Way off. And women are human beings too. And so sometimes in our process of dealing with women, we could be causing more harm than help. War told me one time before, and I take this very seriously, that when he told me this, sometimes we come into people's life to be teachers. And if we engage into any kind of sexual relation with them, we just removed ourselves from the ability to be a teacher. We just kind of eliminated that. And then you got to ask yourself, which one would have gained more from, your penis or the education that you have in your mind? Which one the father is supposed to have the ability to fatten her, not only with the life-giving seed, but with the life-giving seed. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And that's where I'm starting to look at it now. I know who I can and should be.
And that's commendable. My primary rule is that any woman that I interact with, my goal, my objective is to evolve her regardless of what happens to her or what happens to our relationship, whether we're in a relationship or if it's just quick, whatever. It's always front and center that my responsibility to her for this interaction is to give her something to help her evolve along the path and to grow. And so keeping that in mind, when I say develop the idea of manhood, I know that you developed all of those points while you were on vacation. You're here now. So maybe redevelop them based on your experiences that you're having here now in this surrounding, in this context. You know, that you put together while you was on hiatus was a great study tool and development and growth tool for those in that particular situation. But what about the cats that are here now, where, okay, now they're actually interacting with women, or this is happening or that, whatever. It's a little bit, the game's the same, but it looks very different. You know, 'cause you mentioned how you knew cats inside that were the same now, and 10 years from now, they talking about the same stuff, da-da-da-da-da. Most of the people that I deal with on a daily basis are like that. So that particular element doesn't really change. I mean, I know plenty. Matter of fact, you started to invite one of them on the show that is the same now as they were 10 or 20 years ago. And that's one of the reasons that we're like this. I ain't say no names. I'm being polite. I'm saying. But the fact of the matter is, you know, Warren knows, I know that it's true. So people are going to be where they're at and stay in that comfort zone. So I'm just saying, you know, when I say develop the idea of manhood, maybe there's a book too. You know, you got your manhood for cats that during their time, and then when you get home, okay, this is how the game changes a little bit. That shit helped to get you through that shit. Now this book will help you thrive and prosper in this particular scenario.
You know what? That's a great idea, because you're right. Because there were things that I was actually unprepared for once I walked out. You know, because we have all the other training, how to deal with other men, how to deal with the authority figures, even how to deal with oppressive laws. Y'all ain't seen oppression till you seen a prison guard. So you have all of that training. But one thing that you didn't have training for is how to deal with women, because they're not there really. You know what I'm saying? You're not in constant and consistent relationships with women. And especially at this age, at this stage, most women you come in contact with, whether they say it or not, is trying to land you. You know what I'm saying? They trying to land you. They'll come at you with that whole, you know, I just left my marriage and this and that. They trying to land you. And women nowadays they play a whole lot way more games than they did before I left. At least maybe I just wasn't at the stage of meeting those type of women. Hell, I done met women, boy, I ain't even get into that. That ain't what the show about. But you're right. There is a book too. There is required a book 2 of the Huru Shule, because there is something different. And if I'd have knew this, there are a lot of pitfalls that I myself wouldn't have fell into dealing with women. You know, there are a lot of pitfalls. So you're 100% correct. Toxic masculinity. That's a catchphrase that's been chunked all over the internet. Toxic masculinity. What the hell is that?
That bullshit.
You know, when I really think about it, you know, we hear things like the criminal justice system or toxic masculinity. You know what I'm saying? It really is a criminal justice system. You know what I'm saying? That's a crime, the shit they doing to people that's incarcerated. You're right, that's a criminal justice system. You know what I mean? When you think about toxic masculinity, when I look at it in the lens of toxic masculinity, is that old feminized ass masculinity. You know, toxic is something that's poisonous. Toxic is something that'll harm the body. Something, you know what I'm saying? Something that'll harm the spirit, harm the mind, harm the emotion. Toxic is poison. You know what I'm saying? So to equate masculinity to toxicity or something toxic, you know what I mean? That's equating manhood. That's basically taking manhood from the level that it's meant to be expressed and taking it down to a level of this punkified, weenified, homogenized, sissified punk that these people are trying to turn us into. That's a toxic manhood right there. That homosexualized feminine dude who's ready to kiss on his bubby and wear a dress on a CD cover. That's toxic manhood. That's toxic masculinity, because that's not man. That's a poisonous masculinity. You know what I'm saying? That's a sick masculinity. These people are ready at any given time to make anything that, you know, in the way they see it, is that toxic masculinity is you being assertive, you actually having a desire or to be strong, to be courageous. You know what I mean? The only place that, you know, now it's being affected even in the U.S. military. The only place they want you to be manly is in the Army. But I think toxic masculinity is that feminized masculinity. That's toxic to me. A man who's living like a broad, a man who's living like a dyke, a man who's living like a lesbian. You know what I mean? That's toxic masculinity. So you know,
And I can agree with you. What I was gonna say is, because what they're calling toxic masculinity is they would say you're toxic, you're expressing toxic masculinity. That's what they would say. They would say
too aggressive.
They would say that man, that traditional strong man concept, the type of manhood I ascribe to, they call it that toxic. And you being more feminized is, I don't know, I guess it's some kind of balanced masculinity. To me, there's no such thing as toxic masculinity.
No, it doesn't even work.
Like you just said, it's not toxic. It's not poisonous. What's toxic necessary is that a feminization of real manhood. That's what's toxic. And I think it's a reason for it. And we done talked about it before. We've all read Behold the Pale Horse by William Cooper, the last chapter where it talks about what has to be done to the man. We've all read it, and we understand why that's so important, because the man poses a man standing in that strength poses a threat to the very system Eve was blanking out about a few minutes ago. Because that man, he's willing to stand up, he's willing to fight, he's even willing to die if he has to in order to move closer to freedom. He's even die for it. But if you feminize him, if his pants are so tight that his nuts are stuck on the side of his leg, you know what I'm saying? If he don't have that, Who was it that said it was Sarah? She said, I can't remember how the rhyme go, but she essentially said that basically you don't even pay attention to not being free because you got your new purse, and that's the same thing that happens with that real toxic masculinity, that a feminization of the male. It was a book you gave me to read when we was incarcerated, Rich. What's the name of it? The big old black book, Homosexuality and
the Feminization of African Males. Yeah.
By
Baruti.
Yeah. And back then I was like, I didn't see the importance because it had nothing to do with my personal life. But when I was released from prison and I saw what was going on out here, I'm like, man, Baruti was talking about this in the book way back then. He predicted this would take place, that this would happen.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, but it was predicted in the Willie Lynch letters when they went out into the field. He said, you want to go out and get that big black strong buck and humiliate him, tar him and feather him. The symbolism in that is actually taking this big strong dude, tarring him and making him into a chicken. You know what I'm saying? A chicken is, in the section is equated to being a coward. You know what I mean? Then they set him on fire and beat the shit out of him. Then they tied him into the 2 or 4 horses and quartered him. You know what I mean? And this right here is showing that they're gonna try to take masculinity and turn it into a effective cowardism. You know what I'm saying? And set you on fire and then tie you 4 ways to beast the burden. You know what I'm saying? And these beasts represent all the different directions that they try to pull our minds and quarter you. You know what I mean? And rip you and pull you apart. I'm telling you, they want your penis over there, they want your strong arms over there, your strong leg over there, and your head over there, and you on fire in the middle. So, this isn't new. They've been trying to eradicate any semblance of masculinity within black males. You know what I'm saying? And make the woman the symbol of strength. So men are now, geared towards going towards a woman for a symbol of strength. And we say, oh, she's a strong black woman. I'm like, man, I don't want a strong black woman. I like a resilient black woman. You know what I'm saying? Somebody who can bounce back from adversity. But essentially, Willie Lynch, it's been going on. That was toxic masculinity to them. Somebody who can, that big black buck who can come over here and knock my head off and stick 400 yards of penis into my white wife. Yeah, that's terrifying. They didn't want that. So this been going on. They've been trying to feminize us and humiliate us and emasculate us for centuries. You know what I mean? This is the game. You know what I mean? It's terrifying that that black, essentially toxic masculinity is black masculinity. You know what I mean? And that's the greatest fear these cowards have. So I've been seeing it for a while. Baruti just put it so eloquently in that book. He left no room for argument. He completely crushed the whole idea and theory of feminization for black males, African males. It's a work of art.
No doubt. You ain't got nothing to say?
Well, I mean, it's just another, it's hardly even worth talking about the actual phrase. It's just another phrase they threw out there to further divide folks, especially, black men from black women. it's a knee-jerk reaction from the feminist recruiting grounds for gayness and whatnot to attempt to give them, I don't know, some type of, these white chicks. I'm all for empowering sisters. I don't care about the white girls, but empowering sisters. But if it comes at the cost of bringing Black men down, then it's not really accomplishing the objective. It's making things worse. And so to me, this is just the way I've seen it applied. It's so just, it's silly. It's ridiculous. You sit on a bus. When I sit down, I'm taking a city bus and I sit on the bus, my legs are spread because it's shit in between my legs, But that's one of the, that's one of the examples they give of toxic masculinities. You sitting with your legs spread and taking up too much space on the bus. Fuck you. It's nonsense, So it's just one of those phrases that really has no significance in and of itself. And I'm not saying don't have conversations about the feminization of Black men and, then you got to go into the church and how it's played its role and all the other shit. I mean, you talk about RuPaul and all them drag queens and the drag queen shows they having for kindergartners and bullshit like that. But, just that phrase is just another one of those catchphrases that they throw out there to catch those who cling onto shiny shit without really digging into what it actually means. These catchphrase motherfuckers that run around and think because they know the latest catchphrase that they're about something or they're part of the movement or whatever. So yeah, I mean, it's just another one of those phrases that I've never had anybody directed toward me. Maybe because I'm not an alpha cat, I'm the Sigma type of guy, and I'm gonna keep on poking that bear. But yeah, I mean, it's some more they're propagandizing and bullshit, rallying the masses of the brain dead troops in this country to do absolutely nothing, to keep people doing, because there's nothing growing out of it. Oh, you got toxic masculinity. Thank you. And I go on about my business. I don't give a fuck. Yeah. I mean, what does it mean? What the fuck does that actually mean? So well,
let me get my part.
I forgot you was here.
I know. Let me get my part in this as well. Because
no doubt.
I want to take this right back to kind of what we initially talked about the man. One of the things I always deal with is just the psychological elements of warfare. And so understanding how words are weaponized. When you talk about certain manhood steps that are taken by certain cultures, one of the things that make them a man has to do with creating trauma to cause other males to not be able to become men. And from that standpoint, if part of my culture deems that I need to prevent you from being able to be a male, a man, the position of that creates an environment to where there can never be something called a toxic masculinity. Toxic masculinity came into play when you look at the definition of what majority meant in the United States. The word majority meant one thing: white male. Anything other than a white male was considered a minority in the United States. Doubt. So once there is a position to where there may be another man that is reaching toward a role of being able to be in that same caliber of majority, all of a sudden now you have a need to create a toxic masculinity, because the two can't come together in the same space. So when you talk about, again, the weaponization of define, develop, and defend, redefining what masculinity was and create a toxic version of masculinity was justified from their position of manhood and where they're going as a man, just so that they can control any other group from being able to rise to a level of a position of power. And so the concept here is recognizing how definitions can be used and continue to be used to define what a society sees itself as. And so when people buy into definition, then they buy into perception. When they buy into perception, they buy into reality. When they buy into reality, now all of a sudden you got them acting a certain way. And that is actually somebody's version of what manhood is controlling the ability for other people to not be men. And so we have to recognize that. And so from that position, from that awareness, dealing with the weaponization of manhood, toxic masculinity is just simply a tool in a toolbox for deploying a weapon against our people. And most folks are not aware of that. Why? Because in addition to that weapon, you created a open portal for what is called identity politics. Identity politics rules through the concept of creating individuals.
No doubt.
Through the expression of an individual as opposed to collective power, I have now the ability to decide what I want the world to see me as. This coincides with the social manipulation of reality right now, especially when you talk about social media and virtual reality. Now people are able to identify and want you to identify with them according to what gender role they choose to be to represent. So now the whole concept of masculine and feminine has expressed itself beyond a manhood, womanhood level, and has taken on a individual identity point of view. And all of this plays into, again, the weaponization against collective organizing and operation, and our ability to be able to rise up as groups of African men and do something about being able to be at a level to where we can contend to other groups of men. So the idea here is to manipulate and control and disperse our ability to have collective operation. So therefore, you allow us to be as expressive as possible on an individual level, for which tends to make us forget about what we are collectively. And that's just a ploy to demeanor and create infighting amongst any and every other group, so that the definition of what a majority is can stay white male, and minority can be everything else.
No doubt.
Yeah, that's what I said.
That is what he said.
There's some more that individual and y'all know Psyche don't like to talk about white people, but that's still just some more of that, like you said, reducing things to the individual. And that's counter to who we are. We as a people cannot flourish with that mindset. We just can't. We never have. And there's hundreds of thousands of years of history to bear that out. We've never succeeded acting as individuals or perceiving ourselves as individuals in this world. We just haven't.
No doubt.
All right, I got another question. I think this will be a pretty decent one. It ain't one for us to go to war about, because we might have four different answers. We keep talking about, the Matrix, getting free, liberating the people, things. What organization have come out of our ranks that has been the most relevant and moving closer to fulfilling that particular goal or destiny? And y'all,
Panther 48.
Panther 48, most definitely. The great facilitator, the 48ers. You know what I mean? Straight up. So, in my personal studies, I guess from the place that I developed from, it would have to be, the Nation of Islam, and the teachings of the 5% that came about of that. I think that has been, even the Panther Party that came out of the ideology of, brothers like Malcolm and Elijah Muhammad. I think that the Nation of Islam, and even going back to the UNIA, to the Prince Hall Masons, those who have facilitated and fostered the growth, espousing the truth and ideas about our identity, about our strengths, about our weaknesses. I think that the Nation of Islam and the way they categorize the experiences of Black people on this part of the planet Earth it's been nothing short of phenomenal. I believe deeply, and I don't budge from the ideology. I don't budge from the idea of who the devil is and who the God is. You know what I mean? The plight of people in the place that we live, and the plight of people of people worldwide. I believe that the Nation of Islam had a tremendous impact on the lives of Black people on this part of the planet Earth. Even stemming from Noble Drew Ali and brothers like that. I truly believe the Nation of Islam was probably the most productive as far as finances, And well, you know, the way Elaine Brown put it in what's the book that she wrote called?
Taste of Power.
That yeah, I'm talking about. But you know, the way the Panther Party was getting funding, was being, you know, creating these schools. I truly believe that, you know, having that economic blueprint like the Nation of Islam and the UNIA, I believe those are the most productive and powerful organizations that Black people on this planet Earth have ever seen. So I definitely go with the NOI, the UNIA.
What do you think, Walt?
To me, the only answer would be, because you said the most productive would be the UNIA, because the essence of what they were was based upon a developing means of production. And when you talk about means of production, it basically had to do with the utmost level of being self-sufficient as a people. And that's what they expressed, and that's what they were about. Now, did they have it's obviously proven at this point in time that in terms of the level of ability to pass on that leadership was not there. And then that's where organizations like the Nation of Islam and to some degree the Black Panther Party took over. But in terms of just dealing with means of production so that we can deal with self-sufficiency would be the UNIA.
Absolutely.
E.
Okay, I go with that.
All right. Oh, what?
You gonna say the OE?
I mean,
what is that stuff you're drinking over there? They got you feeling like that. God,
I guess it just kind of revolves around the idea of being productive. If we're talking about on a mass scale, then yeah, absolutely, UNIA was huge. But then I think all of those again have to be taken in a particular context. You know, during that day and age, during that time, Jim Crow was a real thing. You know, that song, that magnificent song, Getting Angry, when the brothers on there talking about the perverted blessing that Jim Crow and segregation was that it created a barrier between us and the political ideologies of the European, of the oppressor. And so we were able to maintain, to whatever degree, our communities and our connection with one another. So for Garvey to have, 10, 20, 30,000 Black folks dressed in white walking down, the boulevard,
the avenue, yeah, in Harlem,
down the avenue, was magnificent. But for that time period, yeah, you're supposed to have that. Now you fast forward to some place to an organization like the Nation or the Panther Party, whose whose membership and therefore its productivity was not on that scale, in large part due to the fact that here come integration. We no longer have that barrier. Our communities begin to disintegrate. We no longer have that identity with one another. Again, going back to our concept of freedom, there's an argument to be made that during Jim Crow and all of those years, there was a certain level of freedom that we had. We had Black teachers, Black attorneys that lived on the same block as Black mechanics and street sweepers and whatnot. And so we had these examples of Black folks that stood up to the man, stood their ground, and you'll thump their chest, deacons of defense and shit like that, right there in our neighborhoods. Now we fast forward to a time where you've got organizations like, various Panther formations and other organizations that are competing with LeBron James and Kanye and all these other cats who are making big money, because now that barrier is gone. And so our concept of what productivity and manhood has been hijacked and sold to the highest bidder. And so now no organization in this context could really rationally be expected to garner the type of support that Garvey had, because the people during Garvey's time had support built in. You grew up knowing Black was something. Black was real. Black was an attorney that lived over there. Black was, that brother, my uncle Psyche that stood up to the white boys and told them, fuck you, you ain't dragging me behind the truck today. That type of, we don't have that shit anymore. We have some fucking heroes who will sell you out at the drop of a hat to make more money. And that's the example we have. And that's their individuality. We can't form a cohesive UNIA at this point because everybody's on their individual gang. Everybody's pursuing, I get mine, I gotta, and that's again, goes back to that concept of the I. So, I mean, it's hard for me to say, you know, what it is being produced, what time period, you know, so I don't know. The question is kind of, what do you call it, ambiguous for me. It's hard to answer because I could say OBU, you know, in this time frame from the 70s, and I don't know what their state is now, but the last time I was interacting with them on any type of regular basis or anything, they were the most productive, you know, beyond, you know, especially for having just 5 members producing on the level that they had, you know, having a store, having a museum, having a library, having a school, having all of these things that they did with 5 people in the context of it's your thing, do what you want to do, you know, shake your thing type of mentality going on around them. They didn't have the community coming together to support and hold them up, even to the degree that the Panther, Huey and them did back in the day. They had much more support than the new Black Panther Party had. So, you know, are you being more productive in a time when you have the entire community backing you up, making sure that you don't fail? Or are you being more productive when you're producing some things in the midst of a bunch of sharks? You know, it's like white folks. I can't really say that white, you know, Bezos and them are successful because they're white males who have come up in a system designed to make sure that white males succeed. If you fucking fail in that system, you're just pathetic, you know? So I can't really say that, you know, that sort of trade-off, you know, where are we talking about? What's production? What are we?
Well, talking about like, I think we can see it like Malik Zulu Sabaz put in.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
No.
I'm saying the way he categorized the Nation of Islam when it fell up under War of Deen Muhammad, you know, and he sold all his father's essential values as far as, you know, stores and farms and markets and the fish and the production. Now, if we talk about productivity, they were actually the Nation of Islam was actually a lucrative nation within a nation, and you know, so when I'm talking about production, we're talking about the ability to generate profit or generate goods and jobs in a place that is not designed for us to succeed or have jobs in production. So I think, you know, when you look at how that happened, then you can see how we talk about productivity in a society where it's not meant for us to succeed in those areas. And I think the Nation of Islam followed upon the War of Deen Muhammad. You can see actually where everything went into decline rapidly. You know what I mean? By design, that was systematic. That was no accident. But in a modern context, they were doing it. You know what I mean? For lack of better terms, they were doing it.
Let me say this:
if we're talking about strictly, you know, production on a business level and that sort of thing, it's a whole lot of Black businesses that outproduce the nation and every other Black organization that's around. So that's why I was saying,
let me add mine. I'm surprised, especially with War and E, that none of y'all said the Black Panther Party. Y'all don't think the Black Panthers was nowhere near that level?
I mentioned them.
Yeah. But let me add something real quick, because I want to build off of something E said, and I want to actually correct E on one thing.
No, you ain't correcting shit.
Yeah, he used the word integration. We have not been integrated. The problem
have been integrated.
The problem is what we're talking about is the word integration, but the definition is assimilation. Mm-hmm. Black folks thought we wanted integration, which basically means that my means of production and my position of power can coexist in an environment with you and your means of production and your means of power. But we didn't step to the table with a position of power. Yep. So what happened is we got assimilated. And that is the reason why we're at a stage now to where we cannot see at this moment in time the level of power that we saw with the UNIA, because we did not make a proper transition in terms of our separation. Our separation did not come about because we were ready as a people to be able to deal with the world from a position of empowerment. It came about from a weaponized way to actually break us apart and allow us to coexist within their environment, which created a simulation. So we left behind our means of production. We left behind our collective empowerment and our collective building in order to exists within their environment. So the word
Integration
was used, but the definition of assimilation is what happened. And I think too often we forget that. And as a course of us forgetting that, we stumble upon how do we get back to a position of dealing with self-sufficiency.
No doubt.
The whole idea of separation has to be put back on the table.
Implemented.
It's not a bad thing. It has to do with the fact that in order for us to go back to a collective mindset, a collective set of values, and a collective set of being able to empower ourselves so that we can sit at the seat of table from a position of power, that we need to do that. Anytime you're talking about, when I go into the trifecta, the individual, the family, or the collective, anytime you want to build and deal with something to a level of being able to make yourself better, you have to separate yourself from anything that will go against your ability to be able to do that, right? So if I know, let's just say this, I just use one Psyche do all the time. If I know I need to get my heart rate better, get my endurance up, and become a more physically fit, I have to stay away from junk food. That's a separation. I have to go into the gym and exercise. That's a separation from hanging out. Anything that will prevent me from being a better person so that I can do more as a better person means that I have to separate myself from those things so that I can become better. As long as I'm in an environment that is counterproductive to where I need to go as a person, as a family, and as a collective, then I'm fighting a losing battle if I don't recognize that there is a level of separation that's needed.
Absolutely.
And the word is integrated, just as you would integrate if you had a farm and you were getting a new shipment of pigs into that farm. You integrate those pigs into a particular position within that farm. It doesn't mean the pigs are able to take over the farm. They got no power.
Tell me this: can you put the pigs and the horses within the same fence?
Yes.
No, they have to have their own fence. You cannot put a pig in a horse in a horse stable and expect them not to kill each other.
Not the stable. If they're out, if they're out in the pastures and whatnot, then yes. You're talking about housing them up inside of something. We were integrated.
We did. That is what we did.
No. We were integrated into a particular role when we were brought here. We were integrated into that role. We were put into a role of subjugation as an equal participant. We were equal. It's just that our participation was down here. We never, there's an idea with assimilation that you're attempting to take some foreign object and mold it into what you are. Make it a part of you. That's never been the desire of white folks, to have us be a part of who and what they are. We were integrated at a particular role where they wanted us to stay. Even when we were, because in Stokely Carmichael said it best, we've always been integrated. In the 60s, it was this social, quote unquote, integration that we were integrated or brought in socially, again, at a particular level, not on equal footing to have everything like white folk, because that's not what they wanted. And we've never been separated in this country. We've been segregated, but we've never been separated. So we were integrated. We were never assimilated. We were not the board. We're not, when the board would assimilate somebody, that somebody would join the hive mind. We are not allowed to join the hive mind. We are a mechanical, mathematical part of a mathematical equation where we sit and we play our role. Equal participation. The slave has an equal role in slavery that the master has. Their roles they're the same. They're the opposite. The poles of the same spectrum.
I don't know, because what you're talking about to me is what I call being domesticated, and I don't think domestication has an equal role to that has domesticated it. That's if you saying that a wolf and a poodle can sit next to each other, and that wolf not look at that poodle as lunch.
If you own a horse farm and you have your horses for riding, people come and ride your horses and whatnot.
They domesticate.
You integrate that horse into your farm, and part of that integration process is domestication. So then those two things are not opposed to each other.
So
one is a part of the process of bringing the other one into its role.
I accept that. I accept that.
Okay, so I kind of agree with Rich on the nation. Because when I look at the nation, and I know we don't want to look at individualism, but if you look at what it did for people like Malcolm, or what it did for people like Farrakhan, or what it did for people like Dr. Khalid Abdul Muhammad, the nation kind of has a track record, and the lessons that it taught. While it might not have been as productive as the UNIA when we're talking about building that nation, but you know, they had stores, they had shops, they had their own thing, and they called themselves a nation for a reason. But I think that their educational process was powerful. I think that 120 lessons, that basically that catechism that the members had to learn and memorize and be able to kick verbatim, is what fine-tuned the mind of so many people that went through the nation, you know what I'm saying, and gave them, you know, that level of strength. I think even on many levels, I think that the party needed something similar to that. And I think that that's kind of why we in the party went so far astray, not even in modern times. You know, it seems that people want to romanticize, like E said last week. Sometimes you just got to tell the truth. People want to romanticize the old party or those old members and forget that the old party and the old members had a West Coast, East Coast beef. That the old party and the old members did do some tripping. You know, and sometimes we got to be, you know, we really got to be honest about that, because that level of discipline that should have been in the party wasn't necessarily there. Now, I know Brother War got to get ready to go. We got to get ready to bring this to a close. So I'm gonna close this with one more subject matter. We know the Brother Rich just got released from prison. About 6 days ago?
About tomorrow makes 7 days.
Tomorrow makes 7 days. And
Yes,
how
sir.
long were you gone?
14 years and 4 months.
14 years and 4 months. The brother just got released 6 days ago from doing 14 years and 4 months calendar, day for day. And so what I want to put out there now is, you know, the brother became conscious in prison. The brother started his building process. The brother went into prison, and you can correct me where I'm wrong. The brother went into prison a complete savage. When the brother went into prison, conscious building was nowhere on his mind in any way, form, or fashion. Brother wasn't even thinking about it. You know, and in prison, the brother started the process of his own rehabilitation, his own studying, the refining of his own mind. And I know he done told me many times that he wanted to be active in the movement. He wanted to be a part in some way, form, or fashion. He wanted to play a role in liberating. And I've seen the brother do it myself, even when he was incarcerated. Not trying to praise the brother. He know for a fact that this is one thing I used to always say in prison, because I'd get criticized for this. I don't like to give people their praises. I don't in any way to start feeling like they doing a good job. You know, I don't give it to them. I used to tell Rich about brothers that I felt like were doing a good job, and I'd tell them, I'd never tell them this to their face. I never tell them this, because I want to make sure that dudes ain't doing this for the wrong thing. You know, one thing that Hughes said in Revolutionary Suicide, if you want to be famous, you need to go to Hollywood. You know, you need to, you know, a revolutionary places in the community, a star's places in Hollywood. You need to go make you some pictures. You know what I'm saying? You need to go participate in fiction if the whole thing is to be famous. But if you want to be a revolutionary, then you got to be in the community, and you got to understand that you'll probably be one of those no-name people that'll never be mentioned in history. You know, that's just a part of it. But go back to my point. But
before or after he moved into the penthouse?
that was before the penthouse, I believe. Was it when he wrote Revolutionary Suicide? But anyway, he always going there for Boy Hewitt. Anyway, but I've seen the brother Rich himself liberate minds in prison. I've seen this, and I get a lot of credit for the system that was created, but the brother, I believe, did more of spreading the system. Actually, I think he did more of the spreading of the system than I actually did of actually spreading the system. But my point is, a lot of times you'll walk out of prison, and I've seen this. a lot of the brothers that build with us, they fall back into their old ways. A lot of the brothers that build with us come out and they think the ultimate proof of their lessons is how much money they get now. Like the lessons was about you being able to get out and get the bag. You know, I don't remember where in the lesson we talked about to getting the bag would be the ultimate proof of you learning the lessons. But I've seen this in a lot of brothers. And what basically the question I want to ask to brothers like War, brothers like E, and even myself, that we're going to close out with is the best advice you could give to a young revolutionary brother who became conscious in prison on how to stay his path once he done walked out into this world with all the temptations and distractions that are out here.
All right, I start.
I think I'm gonna start on this one.
I'm gonna start by using some of your own words on you, or that, not you, but what you said. Don't let being released be a release. Your position of manhood is not the same as a man that was not placed into a position of leadership. You're responsible now for being able to create containment. And that's powerful because you came from an environment that contained y'all. Therefore, it was easy for y'all to be able to be in a position where you had to deal with one another to a certain degree. Now you're in an environment where people can run rampant in terms of getting lost in the atmosphere, getting lost in the environment, and they don't have to face themselves. See, when you in a small confined area, the best thing to do now is reflect. You have to reflect, or you should reflect. That don't mean you can, but you should. You start your time starts flashing before your eyes, life starts flashing before your eyes, and you start thinking about how did I get where I am?
No doubt.
Well, now, in this environment, people can run from themselves forever. So now you have to be able to take what you learned in confinement and use that to be able to put a person in a position of confining themselves so that they can not escape from what their destiny should be, and that's to bring us back to collective empowerment and build us up.
Absolutely. I appreciate that, brother.
I'm done eating.
So I'm gonna say this like I always say it. It ain't personal, you know that. But the best thing anybody can do, especially in the more embryonic stage of this shit, is sit down and shut the fuck up.
No doubt.
You know, everybody, you get that information and you feel that drive. You just did this for me. I got to get it to everybody because it'll do it for them. And we get into this mode of action, getting up on your feet and going out somewhere and doing something. When in reality, one of the greatest actions you can have is to sit down and listen to somebody, to sit down and read, continue to read. Those are actions as well. And, you know, Psyche brought up the great and glorious Black empowerment movement, where these cats obviously haven't done that, you know. So it's this idea of wanting to do and not being able to sit still. You know, one of the problems that the ancestors had with white folks is white folks wouldn't sit down. White folks always wanted to be doing something. You know, we plotted the course of stars over thousands of years. You know, just to think how long and how still and quiet you had to be to map out the movement of a fucking star over the course of thousands of years. And that's where that understanding and that knowledge comes from, and that really digging down deep and, like War was saying, reflecting and putting perspectives and building the ideas. Some of the best ideas that the three of us ever came up with was just sitting and going back and forth, doing the shit that we did on here tonight. And what some people would say, oh, they arguing. We weren't arguing, we was playing, we was sparring, we were doing what cats do in martial arts when they get out there and they're physically doing shit. That's what we were doing. Because you get these ideas in your head, and then it'd be so, stop it, War. It'd be so much. I still can't swallow right because you hit me in my throat that time. But you get so many ideas in your head that they get all clogged up,
And when you say it, you know, you've had those times when you say something and it sounds great in your head, but when you say it, immediately you be like, damn, that was some stupid shit to say. So we've had each other to say that around and know that the other person is gonna troubleshoot it, kick it back to us, you know, go back to the drawing board, figure that shit out and come back later. And so having that network to just put your ideas out and sit and not let that drive and that urge to get up and just be moving around and doing that. BLM is for that, you know, the Black Lives shit and all these other, that's for motherfuckers that just want to get up and say they did something. That's what that shit is for. That's not what is going to move us forward as a people. That's what is not what is going to contribute. That's what's going to help keep us confused and running in 30 different directions. So sit tight, sit back in the cut, observe shit, write shit down, you know, bounce shit off of Psyche or me or War or whoever, and get your ideas together, sharpen that shit, and start to, what do you call it? Interview motherfuckers. You know, I didn't realize this until a few weeks ago, but all these years, the way I approach people with this shit, what I actually been doing, if y'all remember in the Fight Club, and you know, they were just throwing back to the old sensei and monks, the way if a motherfucker came and knocked on the door and said, I want to train with you, they slam the door, tell them to go away or whatever. Do that 3 or 4 times. And then after a while, they done shown themselves worthy because they still there. They still sitting there. They must really want this shit. If I can say what I have to say in the way that I say it, and somebody can get beyond that clutch the pearls moment that, oh, I can't believe he said the F word, I can deal with them. You know what I'm saying? If all they get is, oh my gosh, I can't believe he said that, then it's no point in us having a conversation because you're stuck right there at that shit. So learning how to feel people out, which I never really did really well. So I was just like, fuck everybody. But you know, Psyche and War do it a lot better than I do. But you know, so honing your skills and that sort of thing. But yeah, sitting still for a minute. Just sit the fuck still. You home now? It's all good. Go get you some more food and you know, read a book while you eat all that while you're in the bathroom, which is
no doubt.
And I'm gonna say this because I know War got to get ready to go, and I'm gonna make this quick because I got a few things to say. I've got to write that book too, Lee. But you in prison, you created a specimen. You made yourself a specimen. You don't realize it, but when you start moving around this environment, you're gonna see it. The things you did to your body is not what the average man is gonna look like. The things that you did to your mind is not how the average man is gonna talk. So you're gonna be something different. And women are attracted to strengthened men. Don't not fall for this ploy. And the women are not trying to do it. They just doing what they're wired to do naturally. Do not get caught up in the women. Don't do it. Because I said it earlier that it's a distraction and it's something that can weaken you. And see, we don't understand how powerful spirituality is. You know, if you laying with different women who have laid with different men or steady giving away your life-giving seed, and you'll start noticing yourself getting weaker and weaker. And you'll be like, where's my strength at? Where's that power that I once had when I moved through that unit? You know what I'm saying? So the whole concept is to maintain discipline. Maintain discipline. It says that Satan was moving to and fro from the earth, and God asked him what he was doing. He's like, I'm just running around looking for somebody to devour. And then God said, hey, you consider my servant Job? He's faithful. And Satan said, he's only faithful because of your protective hedge around him. Remove that hedge and he will curse his maker. Well, brother, 7 days ago, your hedge was removed. Let's see what you're gonna do.
Yeah. Something epic again. Vintage. Save my heaven if you could just see through my hair. You got that? My days are numbered, read it somewhere in numbers. OG told me it's the thing shit I ordered to do that unsure.